this full circle, like from 2013, our first episode ever, like 12 years ago, 13 years ago, was about the water stains on Mars. So this will be fun to talk about Blue Planet Red, your documentary, blueplanetred.net. And your X account is Brian Corey Dobbs over there. So thanks for joining us.
Wow, thanks for the plug right up front. So you guys were doing water stains on Mars way back when, huh?
Yeah, dude. I mean, the guy that we had on, Ephraim Palermo, his like obsession was downloading. That's back when you had to like download every picture, and I think he tried to put them all together, and he was trying to prove that there was these water stains on Mars. And I mean, Darren was really interested in it back then, and then I went and lost money trying to go to Mars. What was that thing, Darren, that
Mars One.
Mars One. I went and applied for Mars One and lost. I didn't even make the first round in that one. So we were kind of into it back then, you know, and then we got into all this other stuff. But it's great that people like yourself are coming out with these amazing documentaries. It looks like it's getting lots of praise so far, and people are pretty hyped up about it. What do you think?
Yeah, you know, as far as the documentary proper, and I guess for your listeners who are new to my work, there is a feature-length 2-hour documentary that you can go and see the everything you ever knew about Mars, or rather everything you didn't know about Mars. there's the NASA narrative, what we've been told about Mars, and then there's all the other stuff that they found that they just really haven't talked about. And that's the stuff that interests me, as I'm sure it would interest you guys and your viewers. And you know, it's information and data that they've collected. And you know, when I say data and information, I'm also including photographs. So once you start piecing all these disparate data points together, it starts to paint a very different picture of Mars, one that most people have no idea about. So I'm like, this is very interesting to me. I want to do something about it. So I decided to go ahead and, you know, just level up with video production and do the documentary, because I felt like this story needed to be better presented to the public. There's the documentary proper, and then there's my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is essentially the follow-up to the documentary. It's more or less the sequel, the continuing series, because I keep learning new stuff. I keep meeting new people. There's new information that's coming out. And of course, the sexy stuff is the anomaly hunters, that crowd of people who keep finding stuff in photographs. So we can get into all of that today. But yeah, as far as the documentary is concerned, you know, I wish I had the metrics that YouTube offered, but you know, yeah, it's being watched. I'm hearing from people all over the world. It's really great. And you know, the YouTube channel is getting more attention these days. Curious, how did you guys first come across it?
Oh man, I can't remember now. Someone shared it on Twitter.
Okay.
So because I don't think I think I just followed you right when the same time I sort of invited you on. So I think someone had like quote tweeted it, or maybe it was just a tweet of the documentary that mentioned you. But I think it was like you were tagged in the tweet or something, or it was a quote tweet of you, because I was able to sort of navigate right back to your page fairly quickly.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
Darren's
then it just sort of
catastrophism a lot. So
yeah, I didn't even really have to. I didn't get deep into it because it just sort of fit all the boxes. You know, it's like it's Mars, it's maybe aliens, it's all this stuff that fits the show no matter what. So
right. Cool. Yeah.
Where do you want to go from here?
Well, you know, that's the very good question. Let me tell you how I'm used to messaging on Mars, because here's my worldview. My worldview is that most of the public isn't even, well, what do they know? They know that Mars is a red planet and that NASA is looking for life there, and so far has come up with bupkis. A lot of people still think that NASA is still looking for water there. Okay. Now we can talk about NASA's efforts. We can talk about the fact that they did find water there, 50 years ago, And unfortunately, we still get news headlines about how NASA continues to find water on Mars as if it's new. No, it's not. It's yesterday's news. We could talk about microbes. We could talk about fossils. We could talk about primitive life. We could talk about intelligent life. We could talk about everything up to UFOs. So it's just a matter of what you think your audience's starting point, might best be, because there's a lot to Mars. And I'm used to speaking with people who know nothing. Okay. And to get them all the way to pyramids, I got to start with what they know, which is it's boring and desert wasteland. And yes, we do know that there's water there. So
let me start with a weird esoteric question, because I was just trying to, because we also talked about Phobos a lot in the past, and the monolith and stuff. But I wanted to ask you, like, isn't it strange, or have you ever thought about this, that when I try to remember the name of the two moons, Grok was like, well, Phobos and Deimos means fear or panic and terror and dread. They're twin sons or companions of Ares, the Greek god of war. So, I mean, all that just seems very, very applicable to Mars.
It does. This is not an area that I am well versed in, but let me just frame it for you this way. If you are somewhat familiar with electric universe theory, then this stuff starts to make a little bit of sense, practically speaking. And I guess to boil it down and to distill this idea down is that if there are two planetary bodies out in outer space of opposite charge that kind of come close enough to each other, then there's a chance that it might discharge between the two. And what that would look like is a planetary-sized lightning bolt, which perhaps in the ancient sky might have just simply been visible to the naked eye by people here on Earth.
Right.
And Mars is this noticeably different color, and so it's identifiable in the sky. And so if they're attributing this electromagnetic phenomenon to Greek gods, or not Greek gods, but gods or whatever, then there's data to suggest that these myths, or that these stories, these ancient stories about Mars and about the planets, were based on an actual witnessable event in the sky.
Yeah, I love it.
Right.
Yeah. Did you talk about the monolith at all in the documentary? Have you gone there with that? The Phobos?
I didn't talk about the monolith, the Phobos monolith in the documentary proper. Actually, it's funny you mentioned this. I just posted a clip on Twitter of an interview clip that I did with my buddy in South Africa. You guys might want to consider having on the show. He's one of these Mars anomaly hunters, and he does some fantastic world-class work. And what he does is, not only does he find anomalies, but he has the ability to enhance the clarity of the image. Sometimes the images are of such low resolution that when you zoom into them, there's all this pixelation and distortion, image artifacts. So he's able to remove that. His name is Jean Ward, and he actually did a great video on the monolith, and I interviewed him about it. And so he's able to show you a really nice, the most crisp version of this monolith on Mars. And what's notable about it is that it's a different color. It casts a shadow that has like a 90-degree angle in it, so it just sticks out like a sore thumb. And the thing I want to just mention too is that there's a lot of people who have a lot of skepticism whenever I bring up this topic of image enhancement.
Yeah.
Okay. Some might call it upscaling, whatever you want to call it. And in this age of artificial intelligence, people are really worried that what that means is that it's making stuff up. Okay. What Jean Ward and I try to do is that, number one, we always provide the source URL that you can go look this stuff up yourself. Number two, we present the raw image and then the processed image, so you can compare the two, and just to see if the processed image is mischaracterizing the anomaly in any way. We need to be transparent about this stuff. But what the viewers need to know is that this is a process that was developed before the age of AI. It's a process technically called deconvolution, and it's one that NASA has used for decades now. They started using this back in the 70s to enhance the quality of their own images. And the software that Jean Ward is using is the same exact software that NASA is using today to enhance Hubble telescope, James Webb telescope imagery, and lunar imagery, Mars imagery. So he's doing the same damn thing that NASA is.
What about just movies and stuff? You know, we threw on the first season of the X-Files a while back, and I was like amazed at how clear it is. They did something to it, because when that shit came out, and even like 10 years ago when you can download it and stuff, if you threw it on your big screen TV and tried to watch it, it was either still square like it used to be, or it was
Right.
you knew it was 90s television. Whereas now, whatever they did to that, they didn't reshoot it, they didn't use new cameras, but you throw that shit on now and it keeps up with the new media.
Right. And there's actually, so back in the 80s and 90s, the producers of TV shows actually shot the show on film. So Seinfeld today, you can have a high definition version of Seinfeld because they actually didn't shoot it on video. They shot it on film. Sopranos, same thing. Star Trek, okay? All these really great shows were actually shot on film so they can go back and rescan the negative and enhance that detail. There's a lot of shows that were shot on video, and you can't do that. But to your point, the software now has gotten so good that upscaling produces quite a great picture, even from standard definition video. So regardless, this technology has existed for quite a while, and it's only improved over the past couple of decades. So whenever you hear me say the word upscale, okay, all we're doing is taking out the blurriness, refining the edges, removing any pixelation, removing any image artifacts, and, you know, to the best of our ability, we show before and after pictures because, number one, we wouldn't really be trying to enhance the picture quality of any of these images if the anomaly didn't already stick out in the raw photo. It's like, hey, that looks weird. Let's see what we can get out of it. So I just want to preface that because there's a lot of people, that's the main area of skepticism, and I get it. But this is not some AI slop kind of stuff. I mean, we're really talking about legitimate photos, and we're just trying to enhance the detail the same way NASA is. So,
yeah, it's not going to make a pyramid look. It's not going to make something look like a pyramid that wasn't like a pyramid before. It's just going to clean up the lines a bit to make
if anything, it should make it look less like it. Like if it is something that's in a pareidoia, or if it is something that is, you know, you're looking at it weird, then when you clear it up, you probably get lots of stuff where you clear it up and you're like, oh, this is nothing.
We do sometimes. I've thrown some stuff. There was a few images I asked John to help enhance, some that I included in my movie that when they were enhanced, they didn't quite look as abnormal as we once thought they did. The benefit of the giant structures on Mars is that they're so big that oftentimes we really don't even need to do any enhancement to them. It's really the rover images, because they take these wide shots and you see all this debris, and then there's one little object that's, you know, 20 meters away from the camera that when you zoom in, it's just all blurry and pixelated. So the rover images really require us to enhance their quality just to bring out the detail.
So, I mean, I guess to that, then you would be working on the assumption that the rover is on Mars, because we talk about Mars in all sorts of different aspects here. We had, you know, we've had people who said Obama went to Mars. We've got the electric universe version of Mars. We've got the Tychos model where Mars is like a binary with our sun, kind of like the Sirius system. So there's all these. We've gone down the Mars rabbit hole a bunch of time. Obviously, a big one is the panspermia one, where life started there and came here, which seems to be not too far from where it's at. But then the other one is that no one's going to Mars. There's no rover on Mars. It's in Greenland or it's somewhere, and yada yada yada. You know,
I hear a lot of that too. I'm not exactly sure where that started, and anytime anytime I see anyone propose that it's just pictures of Canada, I'm like, okay, just all you got to do is just show me source imagery here. Like, provide a source for your claim, and I'll take a look at it. But so far, really, no one has done that. And I guess just to make this simple, I am taking NASA's word that they have sent landers and rovers to Mars, and that what we're seeing is the Martian landscape. If people want to entertain those ideas, that's fine. I try to really vet any information that I present. I always want to make sure it comes from NASA, because rightly or wrongly, people trust institutions. And every time there's somebody on the internet who wants to make a bold claim that runs counter to conventional wisdom, they always want to know, well, what is the institution's position on things? What does NASA have to say about this? So I always try to keep that in mind, because NASA, we love NASA. NASA's done amazing things. They've imaged our universe and collected data about our universe, and it's really cool seeing space photographs and learning about the solar system and stuff. So I'll go ahead.
It's your work that'll find it.
Pardon me?
And if it is all bullshit, it's the guys like you doing this kind of work that'll find it eventually and be like, hey, man, something's a little off here. I mean, I don't think it's a lot of the audience. There's probably 10% that are in the space is fake and gay crowd.
Yeah, right. Space is fake. That it's just so funny. So, like, if we're questioning everything about reality, which I guess we should, but we at some point we do have to we do have to believe in something. Like, I'm here talking with you guys. Maybe we're in a simulation, but I'm still here talking on this microphone through a computer to you guys. Like, that's real. So assuming that NASA is putting forth this data, which I'm confident that they are, then we in the independent space have an opportunity to analyze and interpret that data, because they are not doing it themselves. And that's the thing. NASA, in my personal opinion, they don't want to they're not in the disclosure business. They're in the space exploration business, and they dangle the carrot of, we're looking for life and maybe we'll find it one day. But, they really don't want to even admit that they have. Okay. And I know it sounds crazy for those people who have not heard this, but they first found evidence of life on Mars, microbial life on Mars, 50 years ago. And since then, they found even more. But most people have never heard about it, because NASA does a fantastic job making these discoveries. They do a piss poor job at public relations. So that's where I feel like I can come in and fill that void, is help communicate on these issues and try to be fair, to the institution, and not just point my finger and say, giant cover up, they're lying to everybody, because that's going to get me. I'm trying to, appeal to as broad an audience as possible, and I need people to take me seriously, because Mars has 50 years of baggage with it, right? People know the face on Mars, and I don't know, man, they know it's a red planet. So we've got a lot of work to do in terms of communicating to the public.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that too, about Sidonia and the face on Mars. Like, has Hoagland been vindicated through all your research, do you think? Or where are we at with Sidonia now?
Yeah, I mean, the face is a controversial structure, isn't it? What I find most fascinating, to answer your question, I would lean towards yes, Graham, as far as Hoagland's vindication. And here's why. Okay. Quantifiably, the structure that we call the face on Mars is different than everything else in that area. Okay, when I say quantifiably, what does that mean? Well, fortunately, we have the benefit of people much smarter than I analyzing this structure that we call the face and observing that it actually has geometric regularity to it. All right, now for those of you who have no idea what I just said, meaning its construction demonstrates intelligent design, because it has designed into it elements of the Pythagorean theorem. It demonstrates intelligent understanding of the Pythagorean theorem. Not only that, But if you run it through specialized software, which determines the difference between natural landforms and artificial landforms based on fractal properties, it's quantifiably different than everything else in the landscape. Now, this specialized software is often used to determine the difference between trees and military bases. So when we're trying to figure out at a glance from satellite imagery, like, where our enemy's equipment is located in the jungle, like it can say, hey, look, this is non-fractal, meaning this is artificially designed. The face is non-fractal. It doesn't exhibit characteristics of natural processes putting it together. So we have this great research done by people like Dr. Mark Carlotto. It's published research, but most people are unfamiliar with that. What most people know is that, this thing kind of looks like a face, but not really. And the not really, in my belief, is because, well, hey, the damn thing is millions, if not billions of years old. What would Mount Rushmore look like a million years from now? It wouldn't look pristine. So once you factor that in, you factor in this quantifiable analysis, then you have to ask yourself, is there any precedent for having a giant face staring up into the sky? Like, why the heck would anybody make something like that? And you guys probably know this. There's these things in Peru called the Nazca lines all over the place. Why would they have made them if you can only see them from above? And not only that, but back in 1947, I did a video on all this, so I'm sort of up to speed with all the research with it. In 1947, there was a Japanese artist who had a proposal to make a giant face on Earth, let's say a mile or two wide, for the specific purpose of, that was back in right after these nuclear weapons went off and devastated Japan. So he was thinking ahead. He's like, well, if we destroy all life on Earth, how are any future alien visitors ever going to know that there was intelligent life here on Earth? He said, let's make a giant face on Earth so that people flying by can see that there was people down here. Now, this concept, he made a proof of concept. He didn't actually do it, but he made a proof of concept. We have an image of it. This proof of concept was developed, a quarter century before we even sent Viking to Mars to photograph and see the face on Mars. So we have artistic precedent for it. And we also have people going back into the 19th century. Carl Friedrich Gauss, you guys know, like when you degauss something or you measure magnetic fields, Gauss, he had a proposal to communicate with extraterrestrial beings. We had no idea who else was out there back in the 19th century. We didn't know what was on Mars. And he said, well, let's put a giant Pythagorean right triangle in the hillside, a mile or two big, with adjacent squares on it. This is called the Pythagorean or Gauss's Pythagorean right triangle proposal to communicate with extraterrestrials. Again, we're coming back to Pythagorean theorem, which this right triangle 3, 4, 5, it's embedded within the face. So with all of this context, in my opinion, I do think there is something to that face. And not only that, it just so happens to be 12 miles away from another anomalous structure, which is a 5-sided pyramid, which in and of itself is so odd. So people understand that the Mars has this face on it, but they may have heard all this other stuff. And so they want to quickly dismiss it because the idea of a face on a planet is kind of silly.
I like it. Thanks for the explanation. Yeah, I think it's worth just addressing that since that was such an interesting topic a couple decades ago. Darren, did you have a question there? Did you want to? I kind of.
No. I mean, I'm ready to get into it.
Well, what's more mod? I guess
we
what?
started the show off with Mars and pictures of Mars and anomalies on Mars, so it's pretty fitting.
Yeah, let's get. Do you have any modern favorites from these? What did you call the guys that looked for all the anomaly hunters?
Yeah, if you had to pick one, like what was the one that got you into it? I mean, it had to be something that you were like, whoa, what the fuck is going on here?
Dude, that's a good question. And interestingly enough, what started piquing my interest in this is a Mars book written by Graham Hancock called Mars Mysteries. And this came out, I don't know, late 90s, maybe 2000, something like that. And in it, he's recounting the history of the Viking mission to Mars, which was a really ambitious mission back in the 70s by NASA, where it photographed the surface in all this high detail, and it photographed the face, and it also photographed what appeared to be these giant structures that looked a hell of a lot like pyramids. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And he also talks about the Viking biology life detection experiments and the controversy there, which we can get into. But Viking was this really important mission. So Graham Hancock, interestingly enough, was my entry point into Mars. And that book came out so long ago. And then I'm like, holy smokes, has there been anything since? And I just started reading and going online, and it turns out there's a lot. And then I met the people in the community who have been studying this stuff and staying on top of it for the entire time. And I sort of got caught up to speed, and I'm in touch with everybody nowadays because, you know, there's some knowledge out there that had it not just been for the one guy who saved that paper that you can't find on the internet anymore, or like, you know, these references to information, you know. So I'm trying to preserve as much of that as possible and stay in touch with the people who are still alive to talk about it, because some of these guys are getting up there in age. So, you know, and then we fast forward a little bit to, or rather, after Viking, you know, even in Carl Sagan's Cosmos, his book and his TV show, he's talking about pyramids on Mars. I'm like, holy smokes, why are we not talking about that? That seems much cooler than, hey, look at this rock we found in the rover image and talk about the geology and blah, blah, blah. So I pursued that, and it ended up bearing a lot of fruit. And one thing led to another. And I said, there's a story here that most people aren't aware of. They only get bits and pieces of it. Even the scientists who have discovered all this stuff, they don't talk to one another. So I felt it was necessary to really put this together in a cohesive story, just to say, hey, look, there's a lot out there that you might not know. And, you know, no matter what your interest is in Mars, whether it be biology, paleontology, archaeology, and yes, even all the way up to UFOs, like, there's something for everybody there.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Musk is, you know, been raving about going there for so long now, and now recently he's changed his mind and said he wants to go to the moon first, which is kind of weird. But what's your thought about that? I'm changing gears there.
I mean, let's be honest here. Musk is hopelessly distracted with every single issue. It seems like
He gets a lot done, though.
I'll be fair here. Musk is a visionary. Musk has changed industries. As to why he thinks he needs to insert himself into every cultural issue, I don't know. I mean, he must have plenty of better things to do in his life, but whatever. The interest that he's been able to gather, or garner rather, for the colonization aspect of Mars, I think is incredible.
Yeah.
Because the root inspiration of that is humans becoming a multiplanetary species. I get it. Like, we've had catastrophe. You guys know this. We've had catastrophes here on Earth that, you know, a lot of us didn't really make it through. So if we want to provide a backup planet for humanity, well, Mars makes sense. So that to me is a visionary approach, and I'm on board with that. I appreciate that. I think what the public needs to understand is that before we go planting our American flag there and saying mission accomplished, we need to investigate in earnest the entire planet, because Mars essentially is a crime scene.
Yeah, it seems to have, you've got that huge scrape down the side. There's clear signs of water erosion. I mean, it really is a lot more interesting than the moon in a lot of ways. The moon doesn't have those sort of features that Mars has, where it's easy to picture that if you throw an atmosphere and some water on this place, that it could have been something. I don't know what the surface temperatures would have been like with an atmosphere, but it couldn't have been that much worse than ours, depending on what the atmosphere was like. You know, it always seems weird that there's no rover on the moon, though, doesn't it? Why not just just have a bunch?
Oh, I think they've put a few rovers up there, but they don't get a lot of attention. And we don't have as many images to go through like we do Mars. So I think in the eyes of the public, the moon is a little bit even more boring than Mars is. But, if you rewind the clock, Mars was an Earth-like planet. Mars was like Earth before Earth was like Earth. And, that's why I titled the film Blue Planet Red. It was a blue planet. It was a blue planet before Earth was a blue planet. And what does blue planet really imply? It implies water. It implies life. So if it had water in the ancient past, did that give rise to biology? Most likely, yes. The evidence shows that there's still living biology on the planet today. But if it gave rise to microbes, what about multicellular life? What about intelligent life? And, long story short, based on the strange anomalies / artifacts, ruins, pyramids, and structures that we're seeing on the planet, it very much looks like there was an ancient civilization on Mars that was wiped out. And I'm real curious as to about what happened to them, because I don't want that to happen to us here on Earth. It starts to get into this Star Wars kind of territory, like IRL. And that's frightening.
Yeah, and you think we would want to know that, right? I mean, that's but then again, we don't even want to know why the cataclysms happened on Earth either. So it's kind of like, why would we want to know even what happened on Mars when we don't even want to know that the flood happened 12,000 years ago or whatever. Whatever is starting to become general knowledge these days. But what's your what was I going to ask about the Mars, about the what's some of your favorite evidence for the stuff that the anomaly hunters are finding, I guess, is one question that we got to get to. And then I want to ask more about like, what is your main evidence about let's say the Star Wars thing, like Brandenburg's evidence of the nuclear catastrophe type thing, or is there also evidence of some sort of natural cataclysm?
Yeah, both. So while I think the natural cataclysms had a devastating effect on any life that might have been present at the time, I don't think they were responsible. I don't think these natural cataclysms were responsible for the loss of the atmosphere, because Earth has experienced similar catastrophes in the past, and our atmosphere is still here. And that's the whole mystery, right? Like, what happened to the planet's atmosphere? NASA will tell us that it's the solar wind that's stripping away the atmosphere. Long story short, the solar wind isn't stripping away the atmosphere fast enough to account for its nearly complete loss. They'll blame it on the magnetic field not really being there anymore. But there's research that actually shows an intrinsic magnetic field has no effect on atmospheric escape. So NASA's explanation, and oh, by the way, they're sending another mission to Mars to go tackle this issue. They really don't know outside of that, which is kind of stupid, because it's not like, John Brandenburg hasn't been telling them for the past 30 years. But to really accept that research means they have to acknowledge something very terrifying. And NASA is not in that business of delivering bad news. They just want to be this nice, neutral agency. Don't worry, everything's good. Everything's good, people. We don't want to be responsible of cultural, societal freak out here.
Yeah.
Right. So I can start giving a little bit of a show and tell here, because
yeah, for sure. And then let's do that. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. All right. Slideshow, presenter view. Okay, cool. Bring this over here. All right. Now, here's something that is hot right now. Okay. I'm going to show you an image that I sent that ultimately made its way to Avi Loeb. I don't know if you guys follow Avi.
Yeah, we had him on the show once a while back. Yeah.
Okay. Well, through a mutual acquaintance, I sent this to Avi. Now, before we get into it, this is sort of an interactive portion of the show. Do you guys see anything that sticks out?
I do, but I've seen this before. So, Darren, do you see anything?
There's a little cone in the corner there. Is that it?
That's right. Okay. Now, before I show you the next image, let me just tell you, this black and white image is what you can find on NASA's website today. Okay. You can go there and find it today. There are color versions of this photo that you cannot get on the public NASA website. You have to go into a different tool that's used by academics and NASA themselves, something called Analyst Notebook, and there they have more photographs, like this one.
Oh, wow.
I discovered the color version of this photograph in that online Analyst Notebook tool, which requires an account creation. It's not intuitive, and you have to go in there and dig and dig and dig and dig and dig. And ultimately, you can find more stuff there than is available on the public website. Now, why would they not release this photo on the public website? You know, we don't know. But clearly, the anomaly that we're looking at here is distinct because it's not rugged like the surrounding landscape. And for those of you following along, it's in the lower right-hand corner. And I'll zoom in here in just a second. It has different characteristics than the surrounding landscape, and it is also a completely different color. Okay, this thing right here. Now, if we zoom into it, on the left, you'll see conventional magnification. And what we're seeing here just looks so odd. To my eyes, what it looks like is a cylinder, a perfectly smooth cylinder with a circle on one end. You can see it's sort of casting a shadow here. And Jean Ward, my buddy in South Africa, he's got this upscaling software that I was talking about before that helps refine this and just makes it much more crisp. But if you compare these two images, I would argue that it's really not mischaracterizing what this anomaly is. It's just sort of refining it, bringing out the detail a little bit better. So what is this? NASA has offered no explanation. And it looks like it's a solid cylinder, a perfectly smooth, solid cylinder that is halfway buried. You can kind of see here. Yes, this taper makes it appear like it's a cone laying on its side. I'm arguing that it's actually a cylinder that's halfway buried in the hillside here.
Like an old pipe system or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's hard to see the detail, but it looks solid on this end as far as I can tell. Of course, I'm not there, but if I were driving the rover, I might say, hey guys, let's go take a closer look at that thing before moving on. But that's not what happened. So all we have is this one image. And people might say, well, it's just a part that fell off the rover. Well, guys, let me ask you. If a part fell off the rover, which sometimes happen, the rover sort of break down and degrade, wouldn't it fall just like right down underneath the rover? I find it hard to believe that it would fall off and move meters away from the rover and embed itself into the hillside. That explanation doesn't hold up. And oh, by the way, this wasn't anywhere near the landing site. It's hundreds, if not thousands of days into Curiosity rover's journey. So it's nowhere near. And then somebody might say, oh, well, maybe it's a part from a different mission. I'm like, what are the chances that Curiosity rover happens across debris from a previous mission?
It also doesn't really look like a part. I mean, it's just a piece of a part or something, which I guess it's hard to tell if it's parallel because the scale is a bit hard to know. The perspective on it seems a bit extreme. It might be a cone.
People, on Twitter, they'll say, Grok, please explain this. And Grok will just say, it's natural. It's a natural formation.
No.
And that's sort of what we get.
We'll see that too. Wow.
I know. So Grok isn't a useful tool, but it provides misinformation regarding these finds, and it provides what I call NASA slop, because NASA wants to explain everything through geology. Geology is the only lens through which they see anything, any of these anomalies. So this to me is the strongest artifact example. There are many others, but this one is really hard to argue with. So hard to argue with that, hey, look, even this week, or rather just a few days ago, Avi Loeb posted this on his blog because he also found it interesting.
Yeah. That's, I mean, NASA might be leaving stuff just for us to kind of figure it out on our own, so that they don't have to be the ones to, like you said, cause the fear and the panic everywhere that,
Right.
if they
So
can say that.
This one was discovered by a gentleman in Israel. His name is Rami Bar Alan. I think it's important to give credit to the discoverers who find this stuff, because they are the ones spending their spare time actually sifting through thousands of images trying to find some anomalies. So Rami is in Israel. He found this one, or he found the black and white. I found the color one later. But he did the hard work in finding it originally. Now, the upscale process, and another anomaly hunter that I want to draw attention to is my friend Jean Ward. He's in South Africa. He's finding all sorts of crazy stuff, and he's able to bring out that detail. And he's got a YouTube channel. He talks about some really interesting stuff. And here you can see Topaz Labs makes this software called Gigapixel. Topaz is their LinkedIn page, and here it's a little hard to see, but NASA uses this as well. Oh, there it is. NASA right there. NASA uses this. Okay. And he has here's a good example of before and after. Here's what a satellite image might look like, and then he just sort of cleans it up right here. So people want to say, oh, it's AI just making up stuff. Well, I mean, let's be fair here. Like, there's a bit of processing that has to happen here, but if you're looking at the before and after, does it really mischaracterize it? In my opinion, I think it's doing an honest job of really trying to bring out the detail. And why would NASA be using it? It's because they believe in the abilities as well. So just my little spiel on that.
You want to know what Claude has to say about that? I took a little screenshot of that tube and gave it to Claude.
Oh, yeah.
Claude? Claude? I'm going to call it Claude because fuck it.
Claude AI, yeah.
It says that's a photo taken by NASA's Curiosity or Perseverance Mars rover on the Martian surface. The interesting object in the foreground appears to be a small cylindrical tube, most likely one of the sample tubes used in the Mars sample collection program. It's almost certainly a witness tube or blank sample tube that was intentionally dropped on the surface by the Perseverance rover as part of NASA's Mars sample return cache.
Right. So Perseverance was the one dropping these little sample tubes.
Out of space, like, or was driving around dropping?
Well, it has Perseverance was responsible for these little tubes that it's collecting soil samples, which NASA was supposed to go back and retrieve. That probably isn't happening now, but that's an entirely different rover on an entirely different part of the planet. And oh, by the way, the collection's tube samples don't look anything like this. So, we have these AI tools just sort of guessing. They don't know. They're just trying to guess. I'm happy that it found some artificiality properties in it, which is.
I'm surprised I even knew what it was, honestly. I was thinking that if I gave it no context, it might.
Right.
That's a plumbing, that's a this, or that's a,
Well, it might have been pulling from a lot of recent social media activity on it because it's been getting a lot of attention recently. So who knows? But, it's quite sophisticated tools, these AIs. Do you guys have a hard stop in 10 minutes or?
No.
Okay. All right. Because I got a few more really cool things to show you guys. So,
yeah, for sure.
Here's another example of a typical rover photograph, right? This is all we see. We just see freaking rocks everywhere, just rugged rocks everywhere. All right. Which, by the way, let me pause here because Darren, you mentioned that giant scar on Mars, right? The Valles Marineris scar that's the size of the United States. And Graham, we talked about electrical discharge, and essentially just imagine a giant lightning bolt hitting Mars, whether it came from the sun or whether it came from a discharge between two planetary bodies. I'm not exactly sure. But what that produces is an immediate excavation of all of that material. And it blows it all over the planet. So people wonder where all that stuff went. I'm looking at all these rover photographs and saying, here's all the stuff. It blew it all over the planet. That's why we're seeing just rocks, rugged rocks everywhere all over the planet. Because it just
That would be
tore
like
it out.
Went up into the atmosphere for so long or around and just settled all over the place. Some of it settled right away and just sort of layered it. So we got like a burial effect almost going on.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, you have an excavation the size of the United States. And actually, by the way, that scar is much bigger. I produced a whole video on this. That scar, what we're seeing is the central portion of the scar. The scar is actually 4 or 5 times bigger than that. It's kind of hard to explain without some visuals here. But that immediate excavation of material that blew it all over the planet, I'm like, this. It's so obvious, guys. It's right here. Maybe Phobos and Deimos were part of that. They just happened to just got trapped in, because they're just small little rocks. They're not like
they sure don't look like normal moons.
Right. Yeah. But anyway, back to this photo here.
What's your YouTube quickly before?
Yes. YouTube is at Brian Corey Dobbs.
Okay.
Can I guess the anomaly in this one?
Yeah.
It's got to be that little like piece of trash looking thing almost right down at the bottom in the right corner again.
It's strange. Sure, there's a lot to interpret here. Maybe what catches my eye is different than what catches your eye. This spot here, boy, there's a story behind this, which we'll get into. But what actually we're going to be focusing on are these two things right here. You see these red arrows?
Yeah, they kind of look like almost like crab pincers or something.
Right. Now, if we take a closer look, this is what we see. Now, again, the conventional magnification, you can see the pixelation and distortion and blurriness, and then the cleaned up image on the right. Now, if you're willing to accept this upscale does the original raw image justice, then we can kind of see what's going on here. And all I can say, I can't tell you what these things are, but in my opinion, I've been on this earth almost 45 years, and I have never seen rocks that look like this. I don't know about you guys, but these just look a little too odd. And oh, by the way, they don't match anything else in the landscape. Everything else in the landscape just looks like normal rocks. These two things look really strange. And we have reason to believe that NASA also thought they looked really strange because the rover sat parked here for 2 weeks taking photo after photo, which is not something rovers do. They normally take a few pictures and move on. But no, they parked here for 2 weeks and took images of this whole area, different wavelengths, and not just these two rocks, but the whole thing. The camera can't zoom in. So all we get is these big panoramic shots. All right. And this was discovered by my friend Jeff Cruikshank, who I interviewed specifically about these two things because he was the one who found out through this analyst notebook tool that NASA had additional photographs of this thing taken over a 2-week span, which was highly anomalous behavior by NASA. So we can only speculate as to why, but it seems kind of obvious. These two rocks are really strange. Why would they be taking photos of different wavelengths here? And why would they park it here? Well, these two things look really odd. So
yeah, I would agree. The shoulder there looks the oddest to me. That sort of the connection between the pincer looking thing and the body, that shoulder area kind of just looks like
right. And then
really
this thing
rocks would line up no matter what, it seems.
This thing here just looks like a container that has tipped over. I mean, look at this. We have a perfect circle here. And what appears to be quite a perfect circle. I don't know what this is. Maybe it's a hole or something, but it's so odd. These two really odd rocks. And that's the thing. I want to remind people that Mars is literally an alien planet. if there was an ancient civilization there, which I think there was, the data supports this. We don't know what their technology looked like. We don't know what their culture was. You know, they might have done things a little differently there. And in addition to that, the surface of the planet has been essentially held in deep freeze for millions or billions of years because the atmosphere was lost so many millions of years ago, let's just say, at a minimum. So yes, there is going to be some degradation to these things. Nothing's going to be pristine. You know, we're not going to go up there and find a brand new Black & Decker tool up there that we can easily identify. Oh, there we go. We know exactly what that is. No, we're sitting here saying this looks different than what we're used to seeing. We can't say exactly what it is with these artifacts, but with some of the structures, it's a little bit more obvious because, you know, we'll get to that in a second. All right. So next one.
What you got, Graham?
I don't know, actually. I can't spot it.
I'll give you a hint. It's on the right side.
Is it that like black thing that looks like it's leaning over there halfway up?
This here. That thing right there. Okay. Now, if you just take a look, do you see anything else like that in the landscape?
Doesn't
no. Maybe real far away at on the horizon.
Yeah, maybe. But this has some obvious, it catches your eye because it starts to, at a glance, it has some obvious symmetry to it. All right. Now, if we take a closer look at it.
Wow.
Interesting.
Now, this caught the eye. We feature this one in the documentary, and we actually had the benefit of having an engineer. His name is Tim Saunders. He actually reverse engineered this thing. Okay. And he did because he's actually a yacht designer. He has to know how mechanical things fit together. Okay. So he actually reverse engineered this thing, and you can see the full video in the documentary. But this thing appears to just be a cylindrical object with this tube sticking out the front. And you then ask yourself, well, why does it look similar to just the rocks that are around it? Let's just say this was some type of metal alloy or something. Why does it look similar in color to everything else? Well, metal, when exposed to a high volume of carbon dioxide, actually corrodes and starts to look rusty. Okay, so the whole planet looks like this. So if there was any metal up there, the carbon dioxide, and the planet's atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide right now, this is what it would turn all the metal to, and start flaking apart and deteriorating. So it's kind of a miracle that after all this time, any of this stuff actually exists for us to look at. I can't tell you what this thing is, only that it looks weird, and we need to go take a closer look. And this is something that NASA isn't doing. They're not driving the gosh darn rover close to get a close look at it. They're just taking a picture and moving along. Nope, we're not asking any questions. We're just going to move along. Just going to do the bare minimum here.
Can you back up a couple? Can you back up to the original slide?
What's the delay before we see the pictures from when they're taken? Is it like probably by the time we see them, the rover's already long gone?
Not long gone. You know, with satellite images, you'll get them. No, actually, you'll get them within a day or two. But yeah, it's generally moved on to its next target by the time we get it.
So is it updating daily then? Does the rover update pictures every day still?
Generally speaking, yes. Rovers and orbiters, yeah, we're getting new stuff on a daily basis, and we've got these anomaly hunters just going through the new updates and seeing what's there. You know, God bless these guys who use their spare time to do this. They're not getting paid to do this. I mean, wouldn't you expect NASA to do this and be like, hey, we found something funny. What do you guys think? But no, NASA doesn't do that. So it leaves it to this independent community to do just that. Therefore, NASA can, wipe their hands and say, hey, we don't know what you're talking about. Artifacts on Mars. That's just some random guy on the internet. So they're able to steer clear of any controversy because they can just blame anything. If you try to attribute any significance to any of these things on the one random guy in South Africa, my friend John Ward, and others,
Yeah. So the reason why I wanted you to go back here, and it doesn't look like a artificial anomaly, but it looks like maybe a natural anomaly. The sand at the bottom center, it looks like there's a smooth section there that almost looks like that rock kind of like moved along and created that smooth texture there. So that it's just weird that all the sand texture looks different, except for that little spot in the bottom center.
This here.
I can't see her.
Oh,
yeah. Now I can see your thing. Yeah, right down. Go down. Right there. That whole area there looks like smooth compared to the rest.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So, there's anyway. What we can move on to the next one here. This one you're not going to be able to see, but you got to hand it this one. If I recall correctly, the anomaly we're about to see here was I would just want to get the name out there, not like it really matters to you guys, but it matters to the discoverers. Thomas Mikey Jensen found this one. Okay.
Because they must have to zoom in and move around and see, like they must have to zoom right in and move around and look at everything in detail.
Exactly. They spend hours on one photograph looking at this stuff, and they may or may not find anything. But this one,
I think I got it. Oh no, I was wrong.
This one's hard to see unless you zoom in, and when you do zoom in, it's really fuzzy. So we have to employ upscaling to see it. But even without employing the upscaling, you're going to see what conventional magnification reveals.
Whoa, that's the best one yet.
Even on the left one, which has no image processing whatsoever. Okay, this is just stretched out like you would do in your Microsoft Paint. You just zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. This is what you find. Now, I don't know what that looks like to you guys, but in my book, I don't know rocks that form in perfect circles like that.
Not two beside each other.
And then it looks like there's
one. You might get one just randomly by chance, but you're not going to get two next to each other like that.
So what the upscaling tool, it has to do a lot of work here. So some of this looks like it's kind of embedded into this rock. It's not perfect, but clearly we can see there's something going on here that doesn't look natural. So like if I were there, if you guys were there, wouldn't you just want to go take a closer look? See, NASA doesn't do that. They give us these low res photographs that we're supposed to go and make something of. For more on John Ward, I recommend, he's got a whole website, Megalithic Mars. He puts out stuff weekly, new finds. Jean's great. He does fantastic work. He's an image processing guy, and he'll take an image like this, which a ultra high resolution JP2 file, which NASA provides with some of their satellite images, and this just looks like, you remember what the static on the old fashioned TVs, right? The white noise, the snow they used to call it. Okay, but this is miles by miles long here, right? And we can zoom in and really find some interesting things. And so 201 megabytes just for this one. Sometimes they're really much larger than that. But Jean will go through this. So he might take 3 or 4 hours at a time and go through just this one image, and he'll find something, let's say in this location right here. And then like this is what happens when you zoom into it. I try to make these easy, try to put them in the center to find them. Okay, yeah, the thing we're looking at here is right there. Okay. And if we zoom in,
Interesting.
There's nothing else like that. And by the way, that thing is 60 feet long.
Wow, that's 60 feet long. That's crazy. No wonder why he's saying megalithic Mars. Then, if he's finding stuff that looks like that, that's 60 feet. Yeah, that just doesn't look natural.
And it's higher than that rock beside it or whatever that is beside it because it's picking up the shadow. Like there's something lifted up on it. You see that?
Yeah, like I don't know what this part. I don't know if this is a depression or if it's just something black on top. It's hard to because this almost looks like a reflection.
Yeah,
but
but
the sun's coming off this way.
That thing right next to that looks like it's elevated a ways in the shadow.
Yeah, right. So it's odd. Joe McMonagle. You guys know Joe McMonagle, remote viewing?
Yeah, well, we don't know him. I don't know him personally.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he featured this on the Jesse Michaels podcast. I actually had a chance to interview Joe, and I said, "Hey, by the way, that thing you featured on Jesse Michaels' program was discovered by John Ward. You know, so we got to give people credit. It's not like Joe found this." So anyway, yeah, 65 feet, and here's a different version of it. John ran it through an update, and this grid-like pattern here didn't appear in the updated version of the upscale. So we wanted to, in full transparency, we had to try to provide different versions of this when the processing makes it a little bit different. So either way, it's just a funny looking object. And, it obviously catches other people's eyes too. Let's continue on here. This one was weird. I don't know what that is.
Is that like an entrance? Because the other thing I remember Ephraim showing us was he had found a bunch of spots where it looked like there was entrances into something.
Underground cave system or something. That's what I wanted to ask too. Yeah.
Right. I mean, we see these craters all over the place, but this one is distinctly different. That don't look like a crater to me. I don't know what you want to call that. That's so funny. 20 meters long. Like what the heck's going on there? I don't know how to characterize that. I've never seen anything like that before. Next we have this thing up in the upper left-hand corner. You see it?
Very top, like the little Nookshuk looking thing. Wow. Yeah. It almost looks like one of those things that the kids stack rocks on top of each other, so people know they're there.
Just a weird, funny looking thing, And here's we get so much variety with these anomalies, and I'm sitting here wondering what makes a curve like that in nature. That just looks like a large.
That looks like a piece of megalith for sure.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. You guys see anything out of the ordinary here? I'll let you guys try to find this one. Again, I try to put them right in the center if I can.
There's a stick there.
Right. Do rocks make sticks like that? I ask it that way because that's all NASA wants to say. Rocks, geology, minerals.
Because wood wouldn't be left over, they think, right? There would be no wood.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'd
not that it means
try to go with wood, but it that's awfully hard to justify that is simply just a rock. Right? And it's leaning like it didn't blow over. Like what are we looking at here? So many strange things. Now, let me also say this, that any one of these photos, just one of them, I understand is not going to be enough to move the needle. It's not going to be enough to persuade anybody from, I don't believe any of this stuff to, oh my God, it's a certainty. It's really the totality of evidence. Once we start taking a look at all of these things, and oh, by the way, these structures, you start to say, oh, there really could be something here because I don't have a natural. you can't use the word pareidolia to explain everything, which is what NASA wants to do. It's a crystal formation. Oh, it's just pareidolia. You're just seeing things. So now here's something. It's not so obvious. It's not the blue part.
It's not the blue part. It's the line going through it all.
Yeah, I can't tell.
It's in the center, but bottom half.
I was going to say it looks like there's a parallel line. Like looks like there's a rectangular stone on the bottom.
What we're looking at here are these thin.
Oh, no, that's not what I saw. Yeah. Almost like a bone. It almost looks like a bone or a skeleton type thing or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to us to try to characterize this because NASA doesn't comment on this stuff. It's suspended. It casts a shadow. One end, I'm not saying it is, but it looks like a spoon.
What that really looks like is something that's rusting out, and there's just sort of bits of it left. Because all that stuff, even right next to that spoon thing, all just sort of looks like it's deteriorating, almost like an old Chevy does when it's sitting out back for too long.
Sure, and that might be the case, but why does this all look like natural deterioration? But this looks very specific and smooth. What would cause such a in the midst of all this ruggedness? Why would you have something so smooth and it looks like it has? It's just really odd. Mars is odd. And oh, by the way, we found something else that looks like a spoon.
Or like a broken off one.
Yeah, I'm not saying it is, but hey, that's a funny looking rock. I've never seen a rock that looks like that. Okay, again, this is towards the center.
Is that another bolt? I think your cursor's right next to it. Yeah, right there. Oh, that's my cursor.
We'll zoom in here right in the middle.
The little red piece there? Yeah, that piece. Yeah. Yeah, that looks too flat and parallel. That looks like a right angle corner there with something.
Yeah, it looks like trim, doesn't it?
Yeah, trim, yeah.
I'm not saying it is, but that's what it looks like. I don't know rocks that form like that. By the way, I've tried on some of these images, I put the URL down below. I mean, you can go look this up yourself. I vet this stuff. I make sure that it is sourced directly from NASA or European Space Agency, wherever. I mean, NASA's one who has the rovers, so we have the benefit of that. All right. This one should be a little bit more obvious.
That's it looks like an old foundation wall right there.
Were you thinking of that, Darren, or the wall to the right?
No, that's what I was looking at.
Again, nothing else like it in the surrounding area.
What about the flat rock surface, the big megalith right to the right of it, even?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that looks.
It does look flat.
Sure, it does. I mean, this almost looks like degraded metal, deteriorating metal.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't look like rocks unless it's sort of like sandy clay that's eroding in a certain way or something.
Right. Like you look at an old rusty pickup truck. It's sort of got the rugged. There's holes in it and stuff, and the where it's sort of the holes developing in the doors. It's never like a perfect geometrical shape. It's always just got this rugged, characteristic to the cutout. That's just what it reminds me of. And people will tell me, and people will tell the other Mars researchers that they're just seeing things. I'm like, you can't just gaslight us like that. That's just too easy a way to dismiss this. It's a lazy response because we have a variety of different things here.
No, that's an easy one.
Yeah. Yeah. Your eye is drawn to it because it sticks out. do rocks form like that here on Earth? How would you guys characterize that? What does it look like?
Piece of paneling. Like an old car door.
Yeah. To my eye went towards like I-beam, like building wreckage. Like think about when not to open up another can of worms, but like, 9/11 when like towers fall, you see all that wreckage, all the metal structural things. It just looks like something resting on top of the surface rather than just part of it, and it's straight. It just looks like a metal I-beam to me, and there's all this flat stuff on the back.
Yeah, it totally looks like a debris field of some sort.
Right. None of these are the same as the other. Again, I want to recommend going to follow Jean Ward. He finds a lot of this stuff. He's got a great website, Megalithic Mars. So that's, we've got a lot of artifacts. All right. We've got structures. We go right to the structures. You got time for that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me cue that one up too. Yeah. Okay. Getting past. We talked about the face. I'll just, I'll show you though, because, oops. Yep. Slideshow, presenter view. There we go. I mentioned these things before with regard to the face. The face has these geometric, repeated expressions of geometric regularity here. These 3, 4, 5 right triangles, these 4 to 3 rectangles, and this thing on the right is the Pythagorean right triangle proposal that Gauss proposed. He wanted to put a giant one of these on the Earth, a big triangle, and these squares signifying, because the Pythagorean theorem is mathematically significant triangle. Okay, so he's got this whole thing. You can go look it up on Wikipedia. All right, but he wanted to, oh yeah, all right. Large enough to see from space. Anyway, let me get through this. And yeah, the fractals we know from nature. Okay, these are things that are high in fractal values. We can see a military base here. The plane lights up, relative to the rest of the area, which indicates it is of low fractal properties, which means it's an artificial object. And oh, by the way, the face on Mars does as well. It lights up. So that's what I'm talking about, this fractal analysis. This was the proposal from the Japanese artist. He wanted to put a giant face on the planet. Okay. The nose itself would be 1 mile. Sculpture to be seen from Mars. It was literally called Sculpture to be seen from Mars. How about that? Isn't that interesting? Okay. I mean, so is it really that crazy? Is it really that crazy? We have the Nazca lines we talked about. Again, is it really that crazy? We have Carlotta's work. He's got all this frickin' data and analysis because he's a brilliant guy. He's a PhD in aerospace. Okay. So Hoagland, he has this quote from his book. That afternoon, so many years at JPL, as a group of press passed around copies of the face photograph and laughed, someone had jokingly remarked that the face, the head, is to tell us where to land. Now, looking at the image, I realized it wasn't a joke at all. Like, how profound is that if this is actually something, Again, 12 miles away from the face, we have this other structure here, this D&M pyramid. Okay? Volcanoes don't look like that. They're circular. They're conical in nature. This thing is 2.5 miles long. It's got 5 sides. This top part here doesn't really count. That's flat, but we're talking about this other structure here. That's from one side. This is the other. The right side is damaged. The right side is damaged just like on the right side of the face is damaged. Okay? If you flip it upside down, you can clearly see it does not look like volcano. Okay, volcanoes on Mars look like volcanoes here on Earth, round and circular. This thing has a high degree of symmetry and geometry. And you might think, well, what's that famous quote by Carl Sagan? He's like, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. You guys remember this one, right?
Yep.
All right. So to which I would respond with another quote from Carl Sagan, which I'll bring up here. Intelligent life on Earth first reveals itself through the geometric regularity of its constructions. Meaning, if you're looking down from space, how do you know there's intelligent life on a planet's surface? You look at grid structures of cities. You look at giant megalithic structures like pyramids, straight lines and such. And so here we have repeated expressions of 30, 60, 90 degree internal angles on this thing. Is this not the geometric regularity that Carl Sagan is talking about? It's my question. And oh, by the way, if you split this thing down the middle and you mirror each side, you can see, like, I'm mirroring over here, this left side over here, okay? It matches up with this red outline that I put on here, and the same thing on the right side. So what are the chances that nature does that? And oh, by the way, the face and this pyramid, they're both oriented in the same way. Some people like orientations as a marker for intelligence. It kind of looks like the Pentagon. It's neither here nor there. It's just kind of a funny coincidence. My buddy George Haas has put out a book about this, and you guys know Robert Schoch, right?
Yep.
Okay. Robert Schoch, my buddy George, teamed up with Robert Schoch to do a research paper on the square on Mars. Okay, this went viral last year. They actually put out a research paper. Robert Schoch put his name on this thing, saying that the square on Mars is not of natural origin. Now, when you've got Robert Schoch saying, yeah, we've got things on Mars that don't appear to be natural, like, now we're getting somewhere with this. Okay, and I did a whole interview with George Haas. You can find it on my YouTube channel, where we talk about this paper that they co-published together. So beyond that, sort of going through a quick introduction of this stuff that you might have heard of before, we have stuff like this. Have you guys seen this before?
I think so.
Looks like someone dug that hole and put all the dirt right there.
Now, if we're going to understand this to be an impact crater, okay, and it's got all the ejected material out here, and oh, by the way, it's 2.5 miles wide, and this thing down here is 1.7 miles wide. You can clearly see that this thing down here has sides to it based on the shadows and the lighting here. But if this is an impact crater, none of the ejected material is on top of this thing. And oh, by the way, this thing is still standing. If this had the energy to come down, and if a meteor had the energy to come down and create a 2.5 mile wide crater, anything directly adjacent to it would have been blown to smithereens. Joe McMoneagle remote viewed this thing back in the 80s. Okay, this is the exact structure, and he called it a pyramid, and it's commonly referred to as crater pyramid for good reason. They've actually re-imaged this thing and did an up-close, better, high-quality photograph of it, and the sides still hold up. Now, I don't know how anyone takes a look at this and say, that's just round like a volcano, because it's not. It clearly has sides. It doesn't have a caldera at the top. And it's just so weird because there's nothing else like it in the area. And you might ask, well, what does NASA have to say about this? NASA actually does try to characterize this. On their website, they call it a knob. You guys ever heard about a knob? I didn't. Knob is essentially when a glacier picks up a bunch of material and then deposits it as it melts. It's just a loose collection of, it's just loose material. It's just a little hill. Okay, these are examples of knobs here on Earth. Another way of saying it is came. These are just scientific words. All right, but again, this thing is 1.7 miles wide. Do glaciers construct 1.7 mile wide pyramidal shapes directly adjacent to a crater, and oh, by the way, there's nothing else like it in the area? Do they just do it that one time right next to a crater and give it 4 sides and it holds up for millions of years?
Yeah, that's a good one. It is interesting around all those other ones.
You guys know Land of Chem?
Yep.
Jeffrey Drum? He's been talking a lot about the Giza pyramids, or rather any pyramid's proximity to water and how water played an important role in the function of the pyramids.
Yep.
Okay.
Chemical manufacturing and stuff. Yeah.
Right. But it needed the water to help it pump the chemicals here and there. And so he did this great diagram. He's like, the water comes in, it pumps it up, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And so when Mars was a blue planet, what would that crater have been filled with?
Maybe water.
Maybe. Joe McMoneagle talked about this on numerous podcasts. He talked about this very specific one. In fact, back in the day, back in the 80s or 90s, he gave this presentation. And look, you can see it right there, Crater Pyramid. He talked about this is the one that he viewed. And oh, by the way, we see more of them elsewhere on the planet. Jean Ward and Gary Legier have found these. They both do amazing work.
That far right one is interesting.
I know, man.
Yeah, that looks like it's like a filled in square there with the right angles.
Yeah. And you notice how it's flat on top, that far right one.
Yeah.
Okay. The Giza Great Pyramid is also flat on top. Jeffrey Drum has an idea about why. He's saying the Great Pyramid was used as a lightning attractor. It was trying to attract lightning, right? And he says the greatest electrical potential would have been not at the very tippy top of a perfect pyramid, but right below it where it's flat. And they've done experiments where it demonstrates this. The greatest positive electrical potential to attract the negative electric properties of lightning would have. So he's saying the Great Pyramid never had a capstone. It was always intended to be flat. And there's a functional reason why. So if you have flat top pyramids here on Earth providing energy for their chemical manufacturing, and it's not just in Egypt that they do this, we see the same damn thing on Mars. And my buddy Jean Ward found another one. 2.5 miles wide. It's clear that it has sides. Now you might ask yourself, what's this bulge here?
Yeah, that one's probably the clearest pyramidal shape there, probably.
Now, again, it doesn't look like a volcano. Some people are like, oh, it's just a hill or it's just a volcano. It's not. It's got 4 flat sides. It might not be pristine, but what would anything look like after millions of years of wind erosion or sediment deposits on top of it, wind blowing dust around and such? I mean, you guys know about unexcavated pyramids. Here on Earth, we have Chichen Itza. Look, we have before and after. Look like a giant hill with a building on top. You remove all of it. Oh, look, there's a pyramid. From the side, Teotihuacan just looks like a big hill over 100 years ago.
Even just the Sphinx a couple hundred years ago was covered.
Right. You just had the head sticking at the top, okay? It's like, do we not have any imagination, folks? Like, just remove the dirt and you have your pristine-looking structure. And if you remove the dirt of Teotihuacan and have this structure, what does it look like from above?
It's hard to believe that they think 300 years was enough to do that.
To do what?
Buried that Teotihuacan like that.
Oh. Well, I think it could be. I mean, it happens faster than you think. I think the reclamation of the forest and the dirt happens faster than you think. That's my opinion.
On stone, it's tough because you got to get all the dirt before you can get anything to take hold.
Yeah, I mean, we can even see part of this back of the structure here is still buried a little bit here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but look, this exact pyramid, flat on top, and has this front stepped portion. What would that front stepped portion look like if it had sediment deposits, a million years of sediment deposits on? It wouldn't look angular and with these rigid, hard edges. It might look something like this, where it's just dirt on top of it. But still, this thing is so dadgum big, you can still see sides. Like, it's so if you cut it right down the middle, it's symmetrical. We have repeated expressions of geometric regularity. This is exactly what Carl Sagan is talking about. This one was discovered by my friend John Ward. I can't talk enough about this guy because he really finds some really great stuff. And my challenge to anybody looking at this stuff is it really too difficult to accept that what we're looking at is in fact what it appears to be? Because if the only reason you say that's not a pyramid is because it's on Mars, that's not a very scientific response. If we look here on Earth, these are pyramid ruins here on Earth in Egypt. And we only know this because we can go up close to them and we know the history, but these don't look like anything. It's just ruins, but we know these are pyramids. And we have better examples on Mars which demonstrate this geometric regularity. And when you put all the pieces together, Mars used to be a blue planet. We've got these artifacts. We have the history of microbes and fossils and other things. We're sort of skipping over a lot. We're going right to the heavy stuff here. Is it too hard to accept that something like this wouldn't be exactly what it looks like? Here's another one.
Dead center. Showing those pictures of the other pyramids from above really does sort of put it into perspective.
Yeah, the ones in Egypt.
Yeah.
Right. It's like it's just ruins. I mean, but we accept these as pyramids. Why can't we accept this other stuff that we're looking at? So yeah, from above, we can see that there is something distinctly different and unique about that damn thing right in the center.
You think you just go to one? Just go check one out and, shut us up. Shut us all up. Look, guys, it's just a pile of dirt.
Right. But does a pile of dirt form in such a very specific and equalized way here, equilateral way? We have a bit of, we could say, damage on one side here. But again, how old is this thing? Millions of years old. Does wind really sculpt something singular? Right, like that, with such equal measurements on equal sides? Does it just do that out of nowhere?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. How does the dirt form? If it was just dirt that was getting blown around forming a big clump, it can't be that accurate as far as just three sides.
Right. Like, does wind blow in three different directions to pile it up like this?
Three exact directions.
Right. Okay. Now here's another one. I show you these landscape images because I need to show you that there's no mountain ranges we're talking about here.
Just one dot in the center.
Yeah. Okay, we zoom in on that.
That's a good one too. That looks more like a pyramid than the Egypt ones.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. And if we people want to say, oh, that's just a volcano because, here on Earth, a single standalone mountain, we consider those, we have them. They're called volcanoes. But volcanoes from above don't look like these things.
Yeah, I would agree.
And then when we compare it to the one in Egypt, and you're sitting there, NASA, telling me that there's nothing to see here? And oh, by the way, what does NASA call this one?
Pyramidal mound.
It kind of makes me think that Elon was sort of told he can't go there. I guess that's kind of sometimes what I wonder is if Elon was, because he's the type of guy that will fall through. So maybe they said like you can't go there yet. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it opens up room for speculation. Elon sort of sets priorities and then changes them when something else catches his attention.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I applaud the guy for doing what he's doing. The rockets are cool. The interest in Mars is cool. I tend to follow Robert Zubrin. I don't know if you guys know Robert Zubrin, but he's the guy that Elon Musk built his entire Mars mission around. Robert Zubrin already did the hard work years ahead of Musk and figuring out how to go to Mars and survive there. And so Zubrin's like, yeah, Musk is ambitious. He doesn't really understand the engineering as well as he should because he keeps saying stuff that's kind of ridiculous. Anyway, that's a diversion. Jeffrey Drum talks about a lot. He talks a lot about these Egyptian pyramids and as being sort of the quintessential technology of this advanced civilization in the past, but that they didn't start with pyramids as being lightning attractors. Instead, they started with stone circles. He's a really fascinating guy to listen to.
Yeah.
Okay, and guess what? On Mars,
that is also pretty interesting.
Now, I know what the next logical question is. What does the rest of the area look like? Maybe it's just debris.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Or have you put together in your own mind, whether it's in your documentary or not, I don't know, but in your own mind about a timeline for when the cataclysm happened on Mars? Because if it really is these megalithic pyramids that you could say might line up with some of the Cyclopean works on Earth, except they seem a lot bigger on Mars. But maybe it's from the same kind of civilizations that were making these massive structures all over the solar system, or not all over, but you know what I mean? Like,
I really wish I could offer some insight there, but it's really, NASA will say Mars lost its atmosphere billions of years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
Brandenburg's nuclear hypothesis suggests that his nuclear explosion happened like 250 million years ago. And it's hard. We can't date stone. So we're dealing with a huge range of time, and I really don't have any meaningful input to offer in that regard.
And only that what about some of the mythologies and stuff like Velikovsky and what's that, Darren?
Well, we can't go there either. We don't have the benefit of being able to collect really any evidence on site to date things, or it's probably hard to look at alignments.
Yeah, I mean, we can't go there. We just have these images that we can sort of piece together what the story might have been. I'm really just trying to appeal to the layperson here and say, hey, look, there's something that we got to take a closer look at without trying to invoke any of the mythology, which I think is more of an advanced level understanding. You really got to be really open-minded to entertain that kind of stuff. And I'm just trying to appeal to the average Joe.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. And we see other examples of stone circles. I don't know what wind would blow things in circles on Mars, make circular mounds with a.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
Again, you got to hand it to these guys making these discoveries. And then we have another one here too. Overlay a circle on it. I mean, look at there's more rocks on the top half of this circle than there are on the bottom, but you do see these rocks coming down here, and it goes right in line, right? And so, but look at Stonehenge. It's not perfect on one side either. We got rubble here. But obviously this used to be a circle. So, you know, we've got, so Jeffrey Drum, he proposes this idea that what we see in Giza is type 1 civilization technology. You guys know about type 1, type 2, type 3?
Yep.
Yeah. He calls it, this looks like alien design. It looks so different than what we're accustomed to building here on Earth. And he proposes that if you're an alien traveler traveling from one planet to another, you get on that new planet, you can't bring your factories with you. You have to make use of the resources that the planet has available. And how do you make electricity? Well, you don't make it, you just gather it from the planet itself, but you got to have methods to do that. You start by making stone circles, you work your way up to pyramids, and then you start doing this chemical processing. I just love the way he proposes this thing. And what we're seeing on Mars says the same damn thing happened there too. We see stone circles, we see pyramids with flat tops. So what happened on Earth just simply happened on Mars before at some point. As to when that was, I don't know, but it has to be in the millions of years. And stone, you guys know stone. If you want to make anything last, you make it out of stone because it'll last a very long time. You know, and here's another oddity. Again, I just try to put it right in the center. All right. Showing you that it's not part of any other structure. It's just kind of single standalone, right? If we zoom in, what do we see? Something looks like a keyhole. You might say it's an exclamation mark. Now, my buddy George Haas, he actually put a paper out on this, and he did some measurements. It's got a high degree of symmetry to it. Alfred McEwen of Arizona State University says this is related to fracture or faulting. He's like, you know, maybe it was uplifted by the faulting. Maybe the surrounding terrain has been eroded down over billions of years, or both. Maybe. Does this look like faulting?
No.
That's the best they got because they see things only through the lens of geology.
Is it convex or concave? It's hard to tell.
Oh, it's convex. It's sticking out. Okay. And oh, by the way, we've got something in Japan looks just like it. Japan has all these giant tombs called Kofun tombs. They're sort of mysterious. They don't really let people inside of these things. These things are ancient.
Interesting. That's a good one too.
So what the hell are we looking at here? You know, we just have all these different anomalies, and I'm like, well, if there was nothing to it, like if it was just one thing, you could, maybe it's just, all right, you can forget about it. But we have so many of them, and they're all so much different. The pyramids, I think, are obvious. It's not like I was trained by somebody in the Jedi arts of pyramid observation. It's just I'm a guy. I know what a pyramid's supposed to look like. I know what a volcano's supposed to look like. I know what a mountain's supposed to look like. And we have people, I get people all the time saying, we have natural pyramids here on Earth, and they send me pictures. I'm like, okay, yes, that's what it looks like a pyramid from the ground, but what does it look like from above, from a satellite? And then the pyramidal feature just disappears. It just looks like a random irregular hill. So we have to look at satellite photos when we're doing these comparisons. Otherwise, it's meaningless.
Yeah, this has been great, Brian. This has been fantastic. Where can people find the documentary? Where can they find you on X? We'll put links to everything in the show notes, of course, but believe it or not, a lot of these listeners don't make it as far as the show notes, as proven by our donations. But if you mention it, they got a better chance.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, well, the place to start is with the documentary. It's just go to blueplanetred.net, click the red Watch Now button right there at the top of the page, and it'll provide you all the links where you can see it. You can see it on Amazon if you're in the U.S. or the U.K. We've got some international distribution with some other streaming networks. Heck, if you've got Comcast or Verizon or Spectrum cable. You can bring it up in your cable box with your remote control in your pajamas, sitting in your bed at night. After you get done watching the documentary, it's got a fantastic soundtrack. So if you got a good stereo system, please crank it up, because I got some killer music. And but we talk about water, we talk about microbes, we talk about fossils. I've got photos for all of this stuff. All right. But beyond that, please check out the continuation of the documentary on YouTube, which is, you can find at Brian Corey Dobbs. And you can find, I do little bite-sized pieces of examinations of these sort of things. And you can find me on Twitter at Brian Corey Dobbs. I'm just trying to cover this stuff. And if you guys know of any alternative, legitimate explanations as to what this stuff may be, please reach out, start a discussion. I want to know. I need to vet this work. I need to know if there's something I'm missing, because if I'm not missing anything, then we're looking at the remains of an ancient civilization that was wiped out by both natural and artificial catastrophes. And we alluded to it before, but there's this whole nuclear holocaust idea, which we didn't get into, but you can watch the film and get more details on that.
Yeah. I think it's really good timing for somebody like yourself to put all this together. It's
Thanks,
due.
Graham.
It's due. Yeah. We've got enough now. We can put it all together,
We do. We just need people to take this stuff seriously, and academia doesn't want to. But fortunately, we've got this. We've got podcasts like yours and other people out there who are hungry for this stuff.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, we encourage everyone to check out the show. And Brian, thank you. And when you do have volume 2 ready, or however that looks out, let us know, and we'll do this again.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot for reaching out, making this happen. It was fun.
Awesome. Thanks.
Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.
And that was a chat. Brian Corey Dobbs, Blue Planet Rare. What'd you think?
Oh, yeah. That's great.
That's fun stuff, right? Like when we first started, look, I remember going into all Hoagland stuff like 13 years ago, 12 or 13 years ago now. So we do encourage everyone to go check out the show. Big thanks to Brian for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening, for watching, whatever you're doing. Whatever you're doing, do consider going over to grimerica.ca/support today, signing up for a monthly or making a one-time donation. We're trying to get everyone on for $1 or $2. That's the push. If we could even just get half of you on for $1 or $2, we could stop asking. So do think about doing that this week. grimerica.ca/support. Check out grimericaoutlawed.ca for the podcast. Contact@thecabin.com for trips and events. Come to Easter Island. Come hang out with Randall Carlson. Come to the Solstice for Serpent Mound. Whatever you want to do, let us know. Contact@thecabin.com. Adultbrain.ca, of course, for the audiobooks. Other than that, we do love you guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.